That's the Air Force One landing at the Tel Aviv International Airport. That is Air Force One with the President of the United States, Joe Biden, in this aircraft. This is a significant trip. This is a significant milestone in this conflict, which has seen the world gaze at it. Joe Biden is hoping to, in fact, chat up with Netanyahu and figure out how to minimize the humanitarian costs which have been associated with this back and forth. He's also there to figure out how this does not spill over to other parts of this region. And there are already indications that Iran, Jordan, Syria, and other countries that sympathize with Palestine are gearing up to attack Israel. This is a significant development. It is not very often that you see the American president get into a zone where an active conflict is at play. He's gone to Ukraine in the past as well, and this is his subsequent trip to Israel now, where he will be speaking with the leadership to figure out how this can be in fact stopped and how this war can be controlled. The humanitarian crisis, the loss of life, the loss of civilian life, which the Hamas, Israel says, is using as a shield, is palpable at this point in time. A number of countries, including South Africa, have taken Palestine's side and have gone on to say that this is not the way forward in the world we live in. Those are images coming in of the Air Force One landing at the Tel Aviv airport. Joe Biden, the president, is here on a symbolic, a landmark visit. What are going to be the key decisions that they will be working on? What kind of conversations will be focused upon? Anthony Blinken was, of course, the first one from the American government to reach Tel Aviv. And thereafter, the Defense Secretary, Mr. Lloyd, also landed in Tel Aviv, and now it's the President himself. And this goes on to show you what kind of emphasis and importance this gives. Mr. Sanjeev Srivastava is here with us. Mr. Srivastava, let me in fact rephrase what I said. Three top American, including the President, have made a very recent visits to Tel Aviv. This goes on to show how crucial and sensitive this war is for the Americans.
Absolutely, it's very crucial, and America's presence on that ground zero in these hours of crisis was absolutely essential in order to ensure that stability is maintained there. And this entire, situation does not get escalated into a wider conflict, a regional conflict.
Right, Mr. Srivastava, let me just hold you there. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, also joins us on the show. Professor Nalapat, a very good afternoon to you, sir. I hope you can hear me. Well, sir, the president is here, and two important officials from the American government have made recent visits to Tel Aviv. What does this conflict mean for the USA?
Look, Vineet, the fact is that the Chinese and the Russians want to drive the United States away from the Middle East. And frankly, the biggest beneficiary of this entire attack will be China and Russia, because the United States will be seen as standing solidly by Israel. And if the reports that I have read are correct, Biden is not welcome with Mahmoud Abbas. Al-Sisi has said he's not welcome. Crown Prince Saudi Arabia has said he's not welcome. So essentially nobody wants to meet him. Now, part of the reason is that they are afraid that if Biden lands in their country, there could be mob violence on the street. Now, the fact is that with this hospital bombing, for example, now this playbook I've seen before. There is, very good grounds for suspicion that it was not the Russians that did the massacre in Bucha, that the Ukrainians showed as a massacre by Russia. It was certainly not the Russians who blew up Nord Stream. But you look to every European expert, they're saying Russians blew up Nord Stream too. In the same way now, what has happened is that there is an attack on a hospital. I can't believe the Israeli Air Force was crazy enough to do that, but they are being blamed for it. And that has inflamed passion all over. At the same time, you have some media channels that are really playing this up. And the whole idea was initially to get Israel to go slow on its reaction. And that is still a motive. But a larger motive, a geopolitical motive, is to drive America out of the Middle East by making the Middle Eastern streets anti-American. And we are seeing this in operation now. We are seeing it in the way Biden is being basically shunned by the Arab leaders, essentially unless he tells Israel to stop the retaliation. So this is a very complex game beneath that is being played, and we are seeing it in there. The president has gone to Tel Aviv, that is true, but if he is not welcome in Egypt, he's not welcome in Saudi Arabia, he's not welcome in the UAE, he's not welcome anywhere else. What does that mean? I mean, what kind of shuttle diplomacy will that be when you can't board a shuttle, you are only staying in one place?
Right. Professor Nalapat, also, it's very clear at this point in time how the world has been divided. If you have, a number of countries which have shown to be non-aligned in the past, coming in the support for what happened in Palestine.
Well, that what happened was a terrorist act, October 7th. There's no question about it. There's also no question that's an existential issue for Israel. They have to ensure that Hamas is dealt with in such a way that other organizations such as Hezbollah and other organizations that are against the very concept of the State of Israel understand that there will be deadly punishment for this kind of an attack. So for its own survival, Israel has to inflict that punishment. Now, that is now being used to rouse passion across the Arab world. So far, it has not gone to a very dangerous decibel, but there is an intense effort by some geopolitical players who are benefiting from the embarrassment that is being suffered by the United States and the pain that's being suffered by Israel to try and fan the flames. And you can see that in their television coverage. You look at state television in some countries, Russia, China, you see, I'm not going to even talk about Al Jazeera because 28 top leaders of Hamas are staying in Qatar. So it's a totally obvious situation. But you can see the effort of fanning the flames. And if the flames go beyond a certain point, then the expectation is that the Americans will become more and more unpopular and will find it difficult to operate in the Middle East. And as a consequence, China and Russia will be the beneficiaries. You are seeing a geopolitical game being played here. And I think Hamas, frankly, this Hamas attack has come in very handy for those who don't want to see the United States in the Middle East. The game is bigger than Israel. The game involves the United States. And we are seeing that play out now in the very cold reception that Biden is getting in the region, except in Israel.
Broadcast to talk about this. Ambassador Goel, a very good afternoon to you, sir. I hope you can hear me. Ambassador Goel?
Can you hear me?
Right, sir.
Hello.
So Biden is in Israel. How is this likely to change anything at all?
Sorry, how is it likely to change?
Anything at all? Is it likely to change anything at all?
I don't think so. I think if he had been able to go to Jordan for the summit that was being planned, which included Egypt and Palestinians, but that meeting is not taking place. And therefore, in the absence of that meeting, I think this visit to Israel would really can be assumed to be a kind of a meeting of support to Netanyahu than anything else really, and the further involvement of the USA in the situation. I'm not calling it war deliberately at the moment, even though Netanyahu has called it a war, but it's a situation. But I don't think it is going to change anything really, any ground reality at the moment. Beneath.
So what do you think is going to be the priority that Joe Biden is going to be focusing on? He's obviously concerned about the civilian casualties that are taking place at this point in time. Israel is saying that this is collateral damage, and this, of course, is something which the Hamas has used in the past. The Hamas has used to shield their intentions in the past as well. Those are live images coming in, folks, of Joe Biden getting off his Air Force One aircraft. He's, of course, being greeted by Netanyahu himself, and you can see some warm words being exchanged. Ambassador Goel, my question, please.
Yes. As far as the civilian casualties are concerned, there is a lot of homilies, there are a lot of words being bandied about, etc., but I don't think that anybody is really concerned about how civilians are faring in the situation. You keep on having those grim pictures from both the sides, Israelis as well as the Palestinians in Gaza, and what they're suffering, the attack on the hospital, 500 people died there. So I think those are the kind of things which will happen in a war situation, but these are very unfortunate. And I don't think either Israelis or Hamas are overly concerned about this, because they give them a kind of a visibility which otherwise would not have been there. Therefore, the only way I can see if USA wants to really help in the situation is to get the Palestinians and the Israelis back on the table together, to see if there is a way, at least a kind of a ceasefire and a withdrawal from these aggressive postures. Vinit.
Ambassador Goel, appreciate you joining us. Mr. Sanjeev Srivastava still with us on the program. Mr. Srivastava, this is not a small deal, the American president being there in Tel Aviv, but the fact of the matter is that there are countries in the Arab world who have been itching for this particular opportunity to take out Israel. Do you think that they will not be frothing at the mouth regardless of what the Americans think?
Well, I think, Vinit, the reactions which we are witnessing at this point of time, either from the West Bank Palestinian Authority or Egypt or Jordan or other, countries, is a momentary reaction. I think because of this very big development, unacceptable development, which has happened in terms of this rocket attack on hospital. So I think at this point of time, obviously the anger is there, frustration is there among the Arab countries as well. And but in my assessment, these Arab nations cannot move away much from United States of America, because if this entire region and this entire situation has to be stabilized, and which they want it to get stabilized, and they also are of the view that it should not get escalated, then I think the interaction and the talks with the United States of America will be essential. And without that, nothing can be done with regard to their negotiations with Israel. So I think United States of America's presence is very much required, and I think United States of America is very much present on the ground zero, diplomatically, militarily, in every possible ways. And also, let me add here, Vinit, that a lot of skeptics, a lot of critiques of the U.S. foreign policy, they were of the view that United States of America is withdrawing from the Middle East region, and obviously to give a message also to those countries like China and Russia and those critics who are critical of United States of America and having some skepticism with regard to the U.S. engagement in the Middle East. U.S. wants to give an answer to them as well, that they are very much there, and United States of America is very much there on the ground zero, and U.S. is back in the Middle East region. If they are thinking that U.S. is going out of the Middle East. So United States of America's President Joe Biden's visit in these hours of crisis, when the war is going on, gives a very significant message that United States of America will be there in the Middle East region in the foreseeable future and times ahead too. And no country should.
Mr. Srivastava, what happens? What happens, hypothetically speaking, if everything dies down? There is end of hostilities for the time being. What happens to the Strip? Is it going to go back being dependent on Israel for food, water, and electricity, or do you think there is going to be a new order at play here?
I think on this front, on this issue, I think President Biden has made his position very clear in one of the latest interview, that the Gaza should be governed by the people of Gaza only, and there should not be any Israeli occupation. And obviously, Israel has disengaged itself in 2005 itself, when they carried out this unilateral disengagement, and even they had removed all the settlements also from the Gaza Strip. So I think Israel is also very much is of the view, in my assessment, that they want to carry out this operation against this unacceptable entity, terrorist entity called Hamas. And once their operation is over, once the Hamas's rule over Gaza is over, and this terror machine and infrastructure which they have created is
all right.
Devastating.
So hold on to that thought. Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, also joins us on the program. Joyita, I hope you can hear me. Joyita? Joyita, Joe Biden is in Israel. How is that likely to impact the future course of this conflict, which has, the world gazing at it for the past 10 odd days?
Well, when you're looking at Mr. Joe Biden landing in Tel Aviv, it's but natural. This is going to inflame passions in the Arab Muslim world. But I don't, in fact, passions are inflamed even inside Mr. Joe Biden's party, in the Democratic Party. Rashida Tlaib has also kind of threatened Mr. Biden that how dare you, that is the implication of the statement, that so-called progressive section that is there in the Democratic Party, they are already up in arms against him. And I'm guessing what is going to happen is that there will be lots of demonstrations all across the Arab world. The Americans are expecting the mob, in all these Islamist mobs to lay siege to their embassies all over. So I think there will be a lot of street turmoil, but I don't think that is going to deter the Americans in terms of supporting Israel, because what happened when it comes to Hamas is that, it was totally wrong, completely wrong. And you see what is going on right now, when passions are being inflamed all across the Arab world. Say, for example, this attack on the Gaza hospital, now it is coming to light that it was actually carried out by this group called Islamic Jihad. And the thing is, they are saying it was,
they're pinning it on the Israelis.
But that is what is expected. That is how, whatever happens from right now, in fact, post that attack, will be playing according to the script of exactly what Hamas and his backers wanted. Basically, paint Israel as a villain, try to get sanctions imposed, and their whole purpose is that Israel should go out of that place. But this is the mistake they don't make, that they're making, that after so many years, I think almost over 70 years, when Israel has been there and it has built up itself up into a defense military power, and in terms of technology and all, it's not going away anywhere. So until and unless they're accepting it and think in terms of mutually settling with each other, there has to be some kind of an accord. And this is where, in fact, Israel and the Arab world was moving towards. When we are looking at the Abraham Accords, which were signed between Israel, Bahrain and UAE. In fact, Saudi Arabia and Israel were just weeks away from declaring some kind of a recognition for Israel, and that there is going to be peace.
But do you think, Joyita, do you think that it was pretty premature of Saudi Arabia to back out of those accords?
I don't think Saudi Arabia has really backed out of the accord. The peace process, they don't yet have an accord with Israel. They cannot, they cannot go against, or rather, they cannot come out in support of Israel right away. But I don't think it's over as yet. So that prospect is there, because you see, the problem is the Arab street right now. How the Arab street, reacts, or rather, let's put it this way. It is not even the Arab street, it's that fundamental Islamist section of Arab street. How it reacts. So it all depends on that. Because right now, the Saudi rulers, the UAE rulers, the Bahrain's rulers, they are not going to, stoke the fire because they have a lot at stake. They have a stake in that peace. So, who are the people who will be stoking the fire? Turkey, Qatar, Iran, these three countries primarily, and of course, what is going to happen right now? I mean, the main player is sitting in Beijing. So ultimately, it's going to kind of show, they will say, sentiments as such, they will be working behind the scenes to ensure that all these, that America is basically
Right.
out of the Middle East.
Right.
That
Let me also rope in Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, who's just joined us on the broadcast. Commander Bakshi, I hope you can hear me, sir. Wing Commander Bakshi, if you're there with us, sir. Wing Commander Bakshi, if you're there with us.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Yeah.
Well, sir, Joe Biden is in Israel. The bigger question is this presence of the American president going to help the situation or worsen it?
The presence of American president will raise the ante out there. There is no doubt about it. But question is, Saudi Arabia is very keen to, form up an alliance and continue it with America. And Egypt is also not very keen to be on his wrong side. But the presence of Joe Biden is certainly going to unify the Arab world, Islamic world. I'm sorry, not Arab world, the Islamic world. And even the little differences between the Islam, including Shia Sunni, may even dissolve very soon if this continuation comes, because now it will be seen as a Christian world against an Islamic world. This is there, and this aspect will be stoked by China and Iran. So Iran and China are going to play a very crucial role in this. So at the moment, even if Biden wants to be there, must bring in other personalities which are accepted by the world, which are neutral and acceptable. They have a more loving image amongst that place, and Joe Biden may not fit the bill.
All right. Defense expert Utpal Bhattacharya joins us on the broadcast as well. Utpal Bhattacharya, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So your analysis of what the latest development in Israel means for this conflict, and how do we see the next week panning along, considering that a number of countries in the Arab world are all set to galvanize some sort of an offensive against Israel?
You see, Joe Biden has reached Tel Aviv at a very crucial juncture. It is always the memory of the last happening. Last happening was a hospital attack where thousands were wounded and more than about 500 expected to have been annihilated, I would say. Now, of course, Israel was very quick in denying that it was their doing. They said their rockets are falling short, and it was one of those Hamas rockets which have done what has been done. Now, there was a discussion in the Capitol Hill yesterday night whether at this juncture Biden should make an effort to go to Tel Aviv at all or not. Because the PLO president has already said, Palestinian president, that he is not going to meet Joe Biden, which he was supposed to be meeting. U.S. ally in the Arab world, Saudi Arabia and UAE, they have also condemned the attack, and they are with the Palestinians. And this one attack has galvanized the Arab world to a great extent. Not only Islamic world, it is Arab world, I would say. So this is a very crucial juncture. And how much Israel will be listening to Biden, that is also
Right, sir.
point.
Right, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir. Joyita, there was also a warning let out by Joe Biden to Iran. The word that he used was, be careful. That is a power-packed statement coming in from the president, who in fact, has done a lot of business with Iran when it comes to oil. They have sold oil worth $170 billion to the Americans in the last few months alone. Joyita, you're muted. Go ahead, Joyita. Yeah.
When you are looking at the Iranian regime, you see, we saw during the protests against the hijab how there is a huge disconnect between the majority of Iranians right now and the regime. So you see, I would say that Iran as a whole is kind of with the Palestinians and against Israel is, I would say, an overstatement right now. So what Joe Biden's statement is the Iranian regime. In fact, there has been a lot of support outside. When you are looking at outside Iran, a lot of Iranians have come out in support of Israel and against the terrorist attack. And perhaps it is the only Muslim country whose people have supported the Palestinians. The Israelis. So we have to look at it from
Iran is also a country, Joyita, which has been giving $100 million every year to Hamas.
First of all, let us differentiate between Iran's people and the Iranian regime, which is basically turning out to be a rogue regime. And I'm going to say this in spite of the fact that we have very quote-unquote good relations with Iran and we buy oil from them and all. When we are looking at that, it is but natural. So you see, now when you're looking at the situation like that, Joe Biden is warning because yes, when you're looking at the Iranian regime, the rogue nature of the regime is such that they have been paying money to the Hamas. They have been stoking terrorism. Much of the terrorist activities that are directed in Israel, against Israel, is coming from Iran. And in this context, let us not forget that Iran is right now in the they are kind of, a proxy of China. So yes, China is going to use Iran and ensure that as I keep saying, the fault lines of the Middle East or the West Asia are kind of become like gaping wounds. So every opportunity they get, they are going to do it, and Iran is also doing it, and this is what is going on right now.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.